is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
And we're back here with another edition of The Breakdown on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Matt Hamilton. That's Chase Daniel. And Chase, the 17th time is the charm. The Broncos finally knock off the Chiefs, get that elusive win.
Yeah.
How concerned are you about that loss from Kansas City's perspective?
Zero. Not one bit. I'm not concerned one bit. Look, if you just go back and study the Chiefs, really since Patrick Mahomes got there, and you look at their record in the months, right? So September, October, November, December, and January, you pull out October. I had NFL Network research do this from. You pull out October, and that month, for whatever reason, for the Chiefs has always been a troublesome month. I have no idea why. It's not like they're playing tougher teams. Anyone in your division that you're playing, you know, it is what it is. But then you get into November and December, and especially the last 2 years, they've had 2 losses combined in November and December. The last 2 years, both were at Cincy. They don't have to go to Cincy this year. Okay, so you're good. Okay, the only thing I'm a little bit worried about is that receiver room still. And that seems to be the weakness of the entire team. And that says a lot because it's not that big of a weakness, but it just looks like, and we're going to show you some plays here soon, that just shows you that Patrick Mahomes has trust in the receivers. It's not about him not having trust in the receivers. It's about the receivers at the end of the day making the routine plays. Like if you get a ball that's thrown right to you, just catch it. Like that's all you need. And honestly, like, look, Patrick Mahomes, we had thought it was going to be the Jordan flu game. He had the flu-like symptoms. It was really bad. It was bad weather. It was cold. Didn't end up happening. He's human. It happens. At the end of the day, though, look, the Broncos came to play. They're an NFL team as well, and they held the Chiefs last time they played to 1 touchdown, right? So you knew it was going to be a low-scoring game. At least I knew it was going to be sort of a low-scoring game. How well could the Chiefs' defense handle the Broncos? And Russell Wilson ended up throwing 3 touchdowns. At the end of the day, I'm not worried at all. They go to Germany, which is probably the game of the week. Tua, Miami, like let's go. 6:30 a.m. start here on the West Coast. I'm going to be up early. So it'll be a good game to kick off Week 9.
And we are going to dig into that a little bit later in the show. But I did want to ask, Chase, I mean, I know I remember you played in some games where you were under the weather and feeling some things. How again, we don't like to make excuses on the show, but how much of a factor do you think the flu was in some of that disjointedness we saw from the offense?
I mean, it was a big factor. Like let's just call it what it is. Like I remember in 2007, we were going down University of Missouri. We were ranked number 1. We were going down to play Oklahoma in the 2007 Big 12 championship game. And we were feeling really good about ourselves, had just beaten Kansas. I had the worst flu and the flu symptoms I've ever had in my entire life that entire week. I didn't practice one day that week. And I getting fluid, getting bags, and going like we start off fine, and then it just sort of kicks in. And I got a couple bags of fluid in the second half, but like at halftime, it was 14 and a half, and then we ended up just crumbling, ended up just not feeling myself on the sideline in the game, ended up losing. I say all that because it's like, yeah, no matter how much you want to say, hey, you know, the disjointness and this and that, like it is a factor. And they're not going to be one to make excuses. You heard Coach Reed, like at the end of the game in the post-game speech to the reporters and probably to his team, he's like, look, we just got to make the plays that are given to us, and we can't try to pretty much play hero ball. And that what he meant by that is like, hey, don't do too much. Don't press. Don't try to chase a play. Don't try to chase a call. You're the best. You can be the best offense in the National Football League. You have the best quarterback in the National Football League. It'll come. And so just do that. And I think they're really going to learn from that. Even though this is a little bit of a weird week, they're going to get to Germany they're leaving Thursday night. They'll get to Germany on Friday morning. And I think they'll be all good over there. I think so.
And what's your read? Obviously, the trade deadline just passed. The Chiefs don't make a move at receiver other than bringing Hardman back a couple of weeks ago. What's your read on that? Do you think it was a missed opportunity from the Chiefs, or is it them doubling down and saying, we believe in the guys we have in this room?
That's not really what they do. They're like they go back, they go out and get their guys. And I think that Veach prefers to handle that in the draft or free agency rather than just go out and trade for someone that's not part of their culture, because that's a big deal. And I think that he didn't get enough credit. Veach doesn't get enough credit for what he's built in KC, because it's not just like, hey, go out and just sign these big time name guys and they're just like all these superstars. there's a culture in that locker room that he sees and that Coach Andy Reid sees, that you got to have the right guys. And if we bring in the right guys, we can eventually, the coaching staff can eventually get them up to speed. But at the end of the day, like, the players got to go out there and play it. And I mean, this is like an easy problem to have, because as receivers, just go catch the ball. Like, it's not like don't overthink it, right, Chiefs fans? At the end of the day, just go out there and catch the football, and you'll be fine, because you do have, which will probably, if he continues on this path, he'll be like, Patrick Mahomes will be the best quarterback to ever play the game. Like, it just is what it is right now. He's on that path. Yes, he is. He is on the path to overtake Tom Brady as it. And so you surround your guys like with guys that like trust, and he trusts them. Like, you're going to have success. It's just a process.
Absolutely. And it is funny. You see some of the numbers that are out there with Mahomes right now, some career lows in categories, and those career lows are still, some guys' best seasons. It's kind of crazy to look at. But let's start digging into some of this tape here. We'll look at some of the things that didn't work quite so well, some of the things that did. We'll start here with Mahomes' first interception of the day. What did you see here, Chase?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, they're not running a concept that he is foreign or anything like that. All they're running is all go special. What's all go special, Chase? Well, it's just 3 verticals, right? And when I was there, they used to be able to, the number 3 receiver, they used to take him up the middle versus Tampa 2, which you're going to see this defense going here. Now what they're trying to do is they're trying to bend the number 2 guy, which is Kelsey, in the slot. So you're trying to see him bend around the nickel once we run this, and this backside little deep in by Sky Moore is there for a cover 2 beater. But you're going to see the Broncos are in a 5-man front, right? So you don't see a lot of Tampa 2 from a 5-man front. They're in a nickel package with 5 known rushers and 1 linebacker and a nickel. So Mahomes knows this, and the nickel just does a good job. You're taught as a nickel, look, if you don't have anything to the flat in cover 2, you're going to melt with the quarterback side. So he melts in and honestly just makes a really good play. And you see this number 3 receiver, he's carrying out the Mike linebacker right here. Exactly what you want. There's a huge hole right in the middle of the field and the deep half of the field, obviously, in cover 2. And he just ends up throwing it right to him. And at the end of the day, like, he's trying to make a play. He's trying to make a throw. The nickelback makes a really good play, like a diving play. And yeah, look, we would have said, oh, this is an amazing Patrick Mahomes throw if the nickel doesn't step in front of him. But the nickel, hey, he plays NFL ball too. Like, he studies film too. And so he probably studied this and said, hey, I'm going to bait Mahomes. And sure enough, he did and was able to make a play.
Yeah, and you see that's the downside sometimes of anticipating things. Mahomes gets the look. Bet you what, he sees where the window is going to be, and the defender makes a great play. As you said, as Coach Yost always used to say, those guys are on scholarship too. Sometimes they make some plays. So, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think there's anything to be overly concerned with there for Mahomes. He's, that's what the read was dictating, and the guy just made a play. But we did see some things go well. There were some bright spots even in a lot of the negativity surrounding this offense. And we saw a big play here, catch and run. You talked about it, executing, taking the plays that are there, making the simple plays. And I think that's what we saw in this play, and that's what stood out to me here. What was your vantage point on it?
Yeah, I mean, look, this just taking what's there, and it's not a crazy concept. I mean, it's literally going to have Travis Kelce. You're going to clear out by the number 1 receiver, which is a post and a deep cross. Okay, we've talked about it a lot on this channel. A deep cross, 18 to 22, that's what Kelce is, and you need some flat control by number 4 right there, and they end up bringing zone pressure here. Okay, they bring Mike and nickel. It's called strong dog because you're bringing it to the passing strength, all right? Mahomes, they have enough to block, okay, but looks like Pacheco gets a little bit confused on who to take at first, so he gets edged a little bit, and Mahomes just say, you know what, I'm just taking number 4 right here in the flat. Like, that's all I got to do right here. They're playing a palms-type coverage. You can see the umbrella look, okay? So no one's to the flat. So he said, why do I need to hold it for Kelce? Because they're almost triple covering Kelce. Like, just get it to my guy in the flat and go run, and you saw what he can do with the ball in his hands. I mean, this is what you have to have, this trust, right? Like, hey, I got to be able to know I got to dump it off for a 2-yard gain, but my guy can turn it in to a 35-yard gain on a flat route. That is, to me, what Patrick Mahomes wants out of his receivers.
Yeah, we see Rashee Rice continuing to flash week after week after week. He's still a rookie. There's still things, he's working on in his game, clearly. But he flashes and makes plays like this. I feel like it's every single week we see at least one of these types of plays out of him.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the day, just like get the ball in his hands, look, I think he's the leading receiver still. Like it says a lot about how his just maturation process, how he's coming along, how much Mahomes trusts. I mean, if you look at it really outside of Kelsey, it's probably him, not even MVS, because he's going to him weekly. And then obviously Justin Watson makes plays, like splash plays every week as well. But you got to love what you're seeing for a rookie receiver to come in, get a little chip, help out on protection, and then, hey, just throw me a flat route and let me high step down the sideline for a 35, 40-yard gain.
Really is a beautiful play there from Rice. Well, it wasn't so beautiful. We got to do it. Let's bring up the play. Sky Moore at the end of the game. What did you see here, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 4th and 2, and they're really not running a short yardage play. They're running a deep out on the up top. Kelsey's just sort of meandering around trying to find an open zone, and they're clearing out Sky Moore right there. And if you look down here, number 6, you can't really see, but in the bottom left corner, it's a free safety, number 6. And he's supposed to have, you see him looking up number 3. He's supposed to have number 3, okay, right there. And the strong safety in the middle of the field decides to go where Kelsey is and where everyone else is. And Mahomes is like, man, like that's an alert versus man only. And he sees it. And boy, does he drop an absolute dime on him. Because like there's, sure, he could have taken the flat or maybe he could have thrown the out right up top. At the end of the day, he sees something in the defense that the defense was not supposed to do because they're just in a cover 5 weak rotation defense. You can see that right there, number 6. He's looking up number Sky Moore, and Sky Moore just goes and he drops it in the bucket and just ends up. I mean, this is probably, like, in my opinion, the play of the game that sort of like, because they were 2 scores down. But if you get this, you're 1 score down and you feel good about yourself and rolling. But you can't throw it any better if you're Patrick Mahomes.
You really can. And Chase, what do you say to a Sky Moore after this? You got the chance to play with a lot of great receivers. Sometimes these things happen. It's a young guy. He's had some ups and downs in his career. What do you say to him after this?
Well, I mean, you just go up to him and pat him on the head, say, hey, man, look, like, we're going to need you the rest of the year. It's not like you're getting cut. It's not like you're not going to help us out. He's going to end up making a big play, maybe like the Super Bowl play, like a touchdown. Like, you don't know. So you got to continue to build these guys' trust up, because right now, no one in that stadium, I guarantee you, no one in that stadium feels worse than Sky Moore. No one. And so it's never... in any locker I've ever been around, it's never been the case where you go up to someone and chastise someone like, you should have had that. Like, no. In fact, that's absolute worst thing you do. You have to just build them up, and you have to go back to them, and you have to say, hey, like, I trust you. Like, a lot of quarterbacks and a lot of OCs, if somebody drops the ball, like, they're saying, hey, let's go right back to them because we're going to need them the rest of the game. So, look, he should have caught it. Like, at the end of the day, he should have caught it. And he's better than that. But, I mean, you just can't. I mean, I go back to the throw. You can't throw it any better than that.
You really can. It's absolutely perfect. And again, in such a clutch moment, 4th and 2, to take the shot and to have that placement on it, it is a thing of beauty. And to your point with the confidence, building up confidence, and what I said earlier, I do wonder if the Chiefs not doing anything at the deadline, if it does give a little bit of jolt to that receiver room, and it shows that, the front office staff, the coaching staff does believe in the guys that they have in that room. So you wonder if that, maybe settles some of the nerves down for these guys like a Sky Moore, who, I think these guys are human, as you said. They have to be feeling a little bit of the pressure that's all the fan base is harped on, it's all the media is harped on, is this receiver room. So maybe that settles it down just a little bit for them.
Yeah, I mean, it could for sure. And that's what Veach is just saying, like, hey, there's no one out there that we'd rather have than our guys in our room. So he's showing supreme confidence in those guys. They got to pick it up at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned earlier, it is a massive, massive game this weekend with the Dolphins in Germany. Winner will move into the 1 seed in the AFC. Just can't have a bigger game at this juncture of the season. What do you think is going to be the key for the Chiefs in this one if they're going to pull off the win?
Well, I mean, the first and foremost thing you got to do is you got to stop Tua in that offense, right? Like that is the catalyst for the entire game. If you feel like your defense matches up well against that offense, like, the Buffalo Bills had shown against Miami and Tua, and also the Philadelphia Eagles had shown, right? Like, if you look at the Eagles' schedule, their wins have been against teams with 2 wins or less, right? So they're not beating yet. They're not beating the good teams. They're beating up on the bad teams, okay? So you got to feel good about that, but also coming off a loss with Miami, like all these, I mean, there's just so much on the table, right? And you're going to, I think, like in the end of December, early January, you're going to look back on this game right here and be like, that won us the 1 seed or lost us the 1 seed. I really, truly think that. So this is a huge game because, as you know, 7 teams from each conference make it. It used to be 6, and when it was 6, the first and second seeds got buys. No longer, no more, because they had super wild card weekend, right? So only 1 team from each conference gets a bye. This game is a huge game for that.
Yeah, and not only puts the winner a game up in the Saints, but it gives them that tiebreaker too, which with the way this season is going and the way the AFC looks, that's the tiebreakers are going to come into play here. And I also have to ask you, this is the big rematch with Tyreek Hill, his first time playing the Chiefs since they made that trade, sent him to Miami. You know, Steve Spagnuolo, got to watch him up close and personal every single day in practice. He was around him a ton. It's hard to game plan against a guy like Tyreek that just has that type of speed because he can't simulate it. But how much of an advantage do you think it gives Spags in game planning that he has that familiarity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives him a lot. And that's the other matchup. Like, if you're diving deep into the weeds, like, I want to see what Steve Spagnuolo does against Tyreek. Tyreek's the best receiver in the National Football League right now. It's not even close. He's on pace to shatter the single-season receiving record by 200 or 300 yards. And it just is like, he's going to get his yards. Like, I don't know if you can slow him down. You sort of have to be able to contain him, where a catch and run on a dagger where he might run out the back door goes for 50, like, keep it to 10 or 15 yards and tackle. You have to be able to tackle well. And honestly, like, most of the success that I've seen against Tyreek has been against like 2-man coverage, which Spags runs a decent amount on second down because you have a safety over top. You have someone matching up. Really, where Tyreek's huge plays come is when guys and defensive coordinators decide to zone the team off. Yep. And that doesn't work because there's all sorts of room in the middle zone and the deep part of the field and deep zone. So I imagine that Spags is going to start with pressure, and it's going to start with affecting Tua, because Tua is the fastest quarterback in the National Football League to get the ball out, and he's like 0.2 seconds than anyone else. It's like 2.3 seconds. That's why he didn't take a lot of sacks, okay? He's taking like 1 sack in their 5 wins. He's taking 8 sacks in their 2 losses. So affecting Tua has got to be the number one thing, and then containing Tyreek Hill is the next.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, a lot of teams playing zone coverage, I think, kind of out of fear of Tyreek's speed, but also the way this Dolphins offense operates with those short motions, they find ways to create matchup advantages. Like, how many times do we see them find a way to get Tyreek matched up on a linebacker or safety, which is a losing proposition every time. So you're right. I wonder if we do see a heavier dose of man. And you're right. Over the years, when we've seen teams kind of at least slow him down a little bit. I know it's counterintuitive with someone with his speed, but if you play 2-man, have safety help over the top, and have him accounted for by one of your best DBs, that seems like at least the best possibility to at least slow him down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, can you slow him down? He's going to get his yards. Like, he's going to get his targets. He's going to get his yards. It's just, can you just prevent the big play from happening over and over again? And a lot of teams that they've played have not been able to do that.
Well, we're going to see. And on the Chiefs offensive side, the Dolphins defense has not had a great year. They get a lot stronger getting Jalen Ramsey back here. What's the biggest, beyond just their own issues with the receiving core, things like that, what's the biggest challenge you think for the Chiefs against this Dolphins defense?
They're a lot better up front than a lot of people give them credit for, right? So I know Chiefs offensive line is one of their strengths, but they're gonna have their hands full because they play a lot of like 5-man fronts, and whether it be nickel or not, it's Vic Fangio. He's gonna sit back and he's gonna look at Patrick Mahomes and be like, I'm going to play this quarter half look. I'm not gonna pressure a lot. He's probably like the least pressuring defensive coordinator over the last 10 years. So it's not like about pressure. He picks and chooses when there is pressure. It's just 5-man pressure. Usually as a quarterback, I would love when teams pressured because I could get the ball out. There was more soft spots underneath in zone. He doesn't do that. He plays a very tight, sticky quarters. And so it's going to be interesting to see how and what the Chiefs do on offense. But I do think that this could be a game where the running game carries the load because there's only so many completions to be had against that type of coverage. Running game get going. I'd love to see you rush for 120 plus yards. If you can get 120 plus yards and set a play action pass, I just think it's going to be better suited for this type of game.
Yeah, and the Dolphins defense has struggled against the run at points this year. And you mentioned they are good up front, Fangio's MO, but he doesn't have Alden and Justin Smith this time or Khalil Mack like he had in Chicago. They have some good players up there, but I don't see those type of talents. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if those guys can win up against the Chiefs offensive line and get home. But Chase, thank you again for the time today. Thank you everybody for watching. I can't wait to break down the film that we're going to get on this game. It's going to be great. I can't wait to watch it Sunday morning. So for Chase Daniel, I'm Matt Hamilton. We'll be back here next week to break it all down for you once again on Kansas City Sports Network.